Welcome back and many thanks for keeping it Channel 1. Just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check. On the second hour, we look at the state of the nation, and talking about state of the nation, allow me to read out this gazetted public holiday. That is, it is notified by the general information, for the general information of the public, that in exercise of the powers conferred by Section 2, subsection 1 of the Public Holidays Act, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration declares Wednesday, again Wednesday, the 10th day of April 2024, shall be a public holiday to mark Eid al-Fitr, signed by Kithure Kindiki, Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration. Eid Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters from wherever you are watching us from. Again, tomorrow has been gazetted as a public holiday to mark that day. Now, on the second hour, we are looking at the state of the nation. A lot has been happening, and it's quite sad that yesterday, travelers were marooned after the bus they were in Wajir was swept away by floods. We are keeping tabs with that report. 8 people died the day before yesterday after the bus rammed into a salt truck in Nakuru. Looking at the transport sector and the issues that are coming out from that, there needs to be some bones breaking, because even the NCCK talked about 3 cabinet secretaries who they talked about they need to up their game or need to step aside, and one of those CSs was Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen. But we'll be talking about that. Again, we are looking at the doctor strike. We are on the 26th day, my director, if I'm not wrong, we are on the 26th day. But the good thing is that the president did break that silence and said that this is what we have on the table. We do not have any more money to give. The doctors say we will continue. And not only the doctors, the clinical officers and also the lab technicians say, the medics say, we will continue with our strike. Other than that, we are also keeping tabs with what is happening at UN, where there's the Rwanda genocide commemoration. Parliament committees are back, and that is why a number of MPs that we had invited have talked about not gracing this show for today, because they have been invited for committees after the 2 weeks recess. And a lot is happening. But away from that, let me introduce my panelists. Beginning from my immediate left, we have Engineer Crispus Wadiba. Engineer is also a principal infrastructure expert and also a leadership and governance expert. Just next to him, we have Alex Kindaki, who is the investment and political analyst as well. Gentlemen, karibuni.
Asante sana.
And maybe to begin with, what I've shown you some messages where the Waheshimiwas have said that we have been recalled. They are back, and a lot on the entry. They're, 2 weeks ago? They've been away for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
Now they are back, and a full entry for them. And especially when we talk about, we saw yesterday, there's the vetting for the ambassadors. We have committees running. There's a lot is happening. What should we expect on Parliament entry as it goes back after recess?
I think one of the things that we expect them to really tackle is what the president mentioned yesterday, that there is need to rationalize our budget. We need to resize our expenditure in terms of what we are going to spend in the next budget. Remember, budget had approved a budget of around 4 trillion. And the president has said we need to cut that down by 500 billion. Yeah. So definitely that is one of the important things they need to address. I don't know if NADCO is still a priority for them in terms of the bills that they are supposed to prepare for moving forward with a NADCO report. I also believe the issue of doctors should form part of the discussions they will have to discuss, because Mwananchi on the ground is complaining. We are facing a lot of cases. I yesterday had an incident where a young girl was about to deliver, and the delivery could not be done in any of the public hospitals, so they were forced to go to a private hospital, and they had to look for money in a very short time because it was becoming an emergency. So those are some of the challenges ordinary Kenyans are facing out there, and I think members of parliament must take responsibility to discuss that. In 2 weeks' time, schools will be opening. So also the issue of how much money has been sent to the schools is also an issue, because I believe even the first term capitation money. Not all of it was sent. So those are some of the challenges members of parliament need to tackle, because we cannot avoid them. Schools will reopen, hospitals have to reopen. We have to find a way to deal with the doctors' crisis or the medics' crisis. And also we also have the issue of the fertilizer. The rain have started. How are we going to handle the challenges we are facing of the fake fertilizer? Even if the government is saying there's a small amount of it that was fake, but the fact that there's a perception that this fertilizer is fake, even the good one will not be, many farmers will avoid to go and collect it because they feel it is fake. So we have a public perception issue that needs to be addressed in terms of the issue of the fertilizer. Yes.
Alex, let me give you a bite of it, what we expect, and especially Parliament, because the doctor strike is something that has been a thorn for the last almost 1 month now. And just yesterday, the Nyeri governor, Mutahi, said that he has stopped the payment of salaries to all the striking doctors. This is not only going to be something that a thorn in the flesh of many doctors, but also exacerbates the situation. Because if you stop my salary, what does that mean? It means more or less like fire.
I think what you should know, there's a lot of there's political goodwill from both sides. I don't think now the president has no excuse for not delivering to the common wananchi. There's no pressure from opposition. Right now what is happening, he has managed to control the parliament and to control all the arms of government. So I think if you look at the doctors, those are professionals. Those are people who can survive with or without the salary. Those are people who can go to those private doctors and be given some jobs they do and they make money. So those are not the people that you can threaten that you are going to withdraw their salary. They'll still earn, they'll still make money. But do you know what is going to happen? The common mwananchi is going to suffer. So whatever these people are going to do, or even the member of parliament and the senator, what they should concentrate on is the common mwananchi, because doctors will survive with or without salary. Those are professional, they can make their money, because by the end of the day, people are still suffering. I heard my colleagues talking about some patients going to private hospitals. So which means it's still the only thing that will happen, the common mwananchi will pay more. So these are the guys who are going to suffer. What we need to do, we need to solve the issue that is affecting the common mwananchi. The president should step up, should work, should concentrate more on the service delivery to the common mwananchi. Thank you.
Engineer, I'm looking at what NCCK last week, they say that they actually singled out 3 cabinet secretaries, health, transport, and agriculture, and they say that if at all the people who have been given the mandate, those are the CSs, if they cannot do their work as Kenyans want, they should step aside. Yesterday we saw the president talk about health, of which he has been quiet. He had been quiet for more than 20 days, more than 3 weeks he has been quiet. And yesterday he broke the silence to say that this is what we have. But looking at these three ministries, NCCK is a very trusted and a body that a lot of Kenyans put faith in. What should be done? And especially in parliament, because the president said that the CSs will be accountable and will also be going to parliament to answer questions. But we are seeing some of issues in these 3 ministries.
One of the challenges we need to appreciate as a country, we don't have a culture of accountability. If I am a leader and I feel I'm failing in my job for which I've been given by my appointing authority, what should be the honorable thing to do? In other jurisdictions, you find people step aside. In other jurisdictions, you find the appointing authority will remove them from that office. But in the case of Kenya and maybe largely in Africa, people just hang in there and fight their battle while still in office. Even if it's a corruption issue, people will still remain in office until they are hooded out maybe by the judiciary or arrested, but they still want to remain in office. So we don't have a culture of where people will step aside and give room for other people to come and take that space. So I don't expect anybody to resign. And I also don't expect the president to fire anybody, because he seems hell-bent on supporting his men and women on the ground. So what will happen is that there'll be a lot of pronouncements, there'll be a lot of directives There'll be a lot of promises in terms of policy changes. But in terms of the challenges that we are facing in this administration, we still have a problem where the top and the larger body of the government seems not to be working in tandem. Because you find, why suddenly do we have a lot of road carnage? We had the same drivers last year. We had the same roads last year. What has suddenly changed? Yeah. Probably at the top there and down here, things are not working together. And I think we need to interrogate how our leadership is working or gelling well with the larger public service. Is there synergy between the public servants and the top leadership there? Is there seems to be somebody who's trying to fight back? Is there a system that is fighting back? So that we understand why all these challenges. Even if you look at this medics strike, they signed a CBA 7 years ago. Why now? Why suddenly now when we are changing from NHIF to SHIF? When we are trying to push universal health coverage? When we are at the advanced stages of making a transformation in terms of the health policy, we need to really ask ourselves, what is the problem? Why suddenly we have fertilizer that is fake? Yet we have always known there are these challenges in the system. Yeah. So we need to understand, is it an issue of this government still not having full control in terms of the men and work down here? Is there elements of sabotage? Those are some of the challenges that the president needs to interrogate and understand. Otherwise, we have to agree there are problems in this government and it must be ready to deal with them. When it comes to parliament, they don't have also the strength, as you heard. He has full control of parliament. So they'll do whatever he says. Nobody can be able to go and try and attempt to impeach a cabinet secretary. In the last administration, they tried. Was Anwar Guru removed? No, he still now remained as a CS and ended up being a vacant. So I don't see any attempts of that kind happening.
And Alex, let me pick from where engineer has talked about, and indeed it makes a lot of sense because we are using the same roads, we are using the same vehicles, we have the same drivers that we had last year. But if you look at the first 3 months, we are almost doing a year in terms of accidents. And do remember that there's nobody who maybe can, more or less like the health CS said, that there are some people who are trying to sabotage what exactly is happening in the health sector and talking about cartels and everything. But when you look at talk about transport, it makes a lot of sense what engineer is saying. We're using the same things that we used to last year, but there is a spike in the number of road carnages before we look at politics as well.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with him also. One thing that you should also understand, what the president did, he rewarded his people. And what is happening right now is there are so many people who are professionals. We have so many professional Kenyans who could have been given those opportunities, who could have helped the president to make sure that he fulfill his manifesto. But unfortunately, the president decided to reward his people who are not professional just because they are politicians. They know how to play politics in those positions. What is happening is that there is nobody who is opposing anything because there's no opposition. You saw what Francis Atwoli is doing. As a KOTU spokesperson, he's trying to convince doctors to go back to work. Look at Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, who is also one of the leaders of opposition. He's also trying to talk to these people to go back to work. So what is happening, both the government and opposition, they are moving toward the same direction. There's nobody who is ready to listen to doctors. You see, these people are more than willing. If you look at they're more than willing to go back to work, but they want to understand who is going to solve their issues. Those grievances that they're bringing up, how are we going to sort them out so that we go for permanent solution? But if everybody is just pushing them to go back to work, but we are not solving the problem, some of the issues that they are raising, what we need to do, we need to first of all sit down with them, listen to them, because there's nobody who is supporting them. We need to support them. If you go to transport sector, the same thing. All those issues, there's nobody who is opposing anything. We are all, the president has managed to control all the areas. Even the opposition right now, the likes of Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga not being there, there's no strong person who is going to make sure that he fight for the common man. Things are tough. So the only people who can be able to protect this country or the common mwananchi now, right now as we are speaking, is the media. The media should come up and speak out the truth. That's the only way. Yes.
And let's switch gears. Last year, ODM made a statement in regards to, of course, the political parties are funded by the exchequer, saying that the delays in submission of the money to political parties is hurting them. And still on political parties, they were so against some of the people who are earning a salary from Kenyans being part of political parties. Case in point, the chair of KRA being made the go-to man in the UDA elections.
Yeah.
I would like you to touch on that.
Well, you know, the kind of opposition we have right now is not the kind of objective opposition we had in the 90s, where the elements of money was not consideration. I mean, if you look at the opposition of the 90s, they were not even funded by government, but they objectively criticized and put the government in check. Today, on one hand, you're saying, government, you should not do this. On the other side, give us the money to do our responsibility. So we don't have that authentic opposition that anybody can rely on. It is all about follow the money. They follow the money, you follow the narrative. So the opposition that the criticism they are presenting today about the chairman of KRA being an election board, before he became the chairman of KRA, he was the boss of UDA. So what has changed? It is the UDA that made him KRA boss. So it has a responsibility to go as long as it's within the law, or it's not contravening any constitution, to go and manage the UDA elections.
But it's good for optics for Kenyans, because a lot of Kenyans also are quick to notice that this guy was the same person.
If Kenyans were to rely on optics, the entire parliament would not be there, because most of the politicians there, their optics are of the opposite of what the Chapter 6 speaks about.
Very true.
So Kenyans are not people about optics, because if they were to rely about optics, and the media was to be very categorical in terms of projecting the optic, the real true object, some of these leaders were not elected. Kenya is about interest. So the chairman of KRA was a UDA boss. He is just making sure that the party is safe. That is his responsibility.
Alex, do you share the same sentiments as the engineer here?
Let me tell engineer something. You see, I think for opposition, it's their right to be given the money to run the party. But what the president has done, I want to give you an example of a party like DAP Kenya. If you look at the opposition, there's money that these people were supposed to give to run those parties. DAP was supposed to be given 38 million, but the government only released 13 million. Reason being, if these people are given enough money, they will campaign against the government. So the president is making sure that he's controlling everything. He wants to make sure that these people don't have enough money to fight him back. So what is happening right now, the only challenge that we are having right now, even in political parties, you see, even what is happening right now, you have seen ANC is going to fold, it's going to go to UDA.
Yes.
I can tell you, even as we are speaking now, you can see where Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, where he's heading to. What is going to remain in ODM, there are going to be so many rancors between the Luhya and the Luo supremacy. Luhya wants to make sure that we have our own guy like Oparanya to lead ODM, while Luo Nyanza feel that the O in ODM means they comes from their community.
And of course, Pia, we look at Mombasa. The coast people, they want also Joho as well to be the leader as well.
But Joe is a joker. Joe is not a serious. When you're talking about ODM, the number come from Western and Nyanza.
All right, and I have to say this, but some of the sentiments that are here do not necessarily represent those of the corporation. But still on the party politics, some of these parties have just been more or less like swallowed up. Let's look at Ford Kenya. There was some, actually, the section for UDA said that party should fold up. Then all of a sudden he had change of heart because parties like Ford Kenya had some issues with folding up. Do you believe ANC might end up folding up and joining
Not
UDA?
that might end up.
Yes.
ANC, as we are speaking now, there's no ANC. I come from Western region. I can confirm to you ANC is going to join UDA. Reason being, look at somebody like our kingpin, Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi. If you look at Mudavadi, politically that guy has been struggling, especially our people have not really been supporting him. From the time we had devolution, ANC from Western region has never produced a governor. That is one thing that you should know. At least DAP Kenya is a young party. They have managed to have Natembea. Ford Kenya, they have managed to have a number of, but for those kind of embarrassment, I think they have led to Musalia Mudavadi to decide to join UDA, because each and every time, and even as we are speaking right now, the member of parliament from Sabatia, where Mudavadi come from, is from UDA. But one thing that I can say is that Ruto is a very smart politician. What he's doing for him is killing this other party. He wants to make sure that UDA is going to be the biggest party. But what I can see, if somebody like Mheshimiwa Eugene Wamalwa can stand strong and make sure that 2027 he be on the ballot, I can assure you that the party that is going to be the biggest party in Western region is going to be DAP Kenya. It's a young and a very promising party.
Ford Kenya refused to fold up during, actually, they had... they really didn't like even the sentiments themselves, being told to fold up and join UDA. But there's an issue of DAP Kenya. Are you sure DAP will be able to muscle out Ford Kenya in Western Kenya?
I have worked with Ford Kenya. I've worked with Mheshimiwa Wetangula. He's a very nice and a very principled guy. For him, he don't give a damn. He knows what he wants. He knows what UDA wants. Even the issue that he has with the Natembea, we know where the issues are coming from, because the thing is, the main problem is because of him folding the party, the Ford Kenya. But the biggest beneficiaries here is going to be DAP Kenya. Because if you look at the structure of DAP Kenya and the way they performed, you know, right now as we are speaking is the number 5 in terms of the most powerful parties in this country. DAP Kenya is doing very well. And it has very powerful and very strong politicians. What I can tell you, the biggest beneficiaries from Western region is not going to be UDA. It's going to be DAP Kenya. The only thing, but you see, even that one, I'm 100% sure the president already know that. So the only thing, because he's a very smart politician, he will do something to make sure that he finish DAP Kenya. But as we are speaking, DAP Kenya is the biggest party in Western region.
All right, I'm quite sure a number of people will have a second word on that. But Wathimba, I'm looking at these parties. Let's be very honest. When Speaker Wetangula took over, he had to relinquish his position at Ford Kenya totally. Yeah. That is the law. Yeah. When Musalia took the Prime Cabinet Secretary, he had to relinquish ANC leadership. If at all, our very own Baba makes it to AU, he will have to relinquish his position at ODM. But let's be very honest, these people still pull strings behind the curtains. Don't you believe so? Because in Ford Kenya, I'm quite sure, and he's still holding grasp on it. The ANC, I'm quite sure Musalia is still having some grasp on it. How do we ensure that if at all we have decided that you are no longer a politician, you want to go to the executive, we don't just leave parties like that, and we don't kill parties. Look at Ford Kenya. It has quite a legacy, if you ask me.
What we need to appreciate is that times have changed. Between 1992 and 2002, multi-democracy thrived under Moi. But even Kanu being a minority, it was able to rule. Then came 2002 where NAK Kenya or the Raila said Kibaki Tosha. And that's when we started now seeing single party or one strong party remaining in power for a very long time. So in 2002 we had NAK Kenya getting Kibaki to presidency. 2007 it's PNU. 2013 it was TNA URP. Then 2017 we have Jubilee. And now 2022 we have UDA. But who is the president today? He's a student of Moi politics. This is a man who knows, for me, I have to make sure one party is strong. That is UDA. So for him, he will make sure that UDA becomes a strong party. The same way they had designed Jubilee, but it was frustrated, is what he will want to form today. There will definitely be some resistance here and there. But already, he has already secured one move, by pushing Raila to the AU, he has already made sure that the opposition is very weak. So, as much as internally he may have some resistance here and there, he already has ground to go and mop up some support from the opposition. Because everybody now feels the opposition is weak, it is exposed, government is strong, we can also join government and find space. The likes of ANC, Ford Kenya, and their leaders, they are also in their 70s or heading to 70s. How much time do they have to be as strong as Raila Amolo Odinga? If the root of politics will be there for the next 20 or 30 years, because even if he leaves power after 10 years, his brand of politics will still be influencing the kind of governance we have in the country. So therefore, they have already seen it's better to work with this administration for the long term. We cannot go very far with our parties. They are probably weak. They are not connecting with the common man on the ground. The kind of voter is changing. ANC and Ford Kenya, the kind of politics on the ground maybe has changed, so it's time for the young parties like DAP. So what they say, we'd rather fold our parties, remain in UDA as executive appointees, and we have our opposition, we have our positions in government, rather than being on the ground without anything. We have fought for this country for a long time. It's now for this government, this country to take good care of us. So I think for those parties, we may see them disappearing, but we'll see new parties taking space in where there are gaps in. Where the ODM gap will be, we'll see another party coming in. Where Ford Kenya will disappear, another party will take that space. The challenge maybe with Luhya Nation is the Luhya unity. Everybody knows that the Luhya community has never been united. So there will be also people who will take advantage of that disunity that is there to break that vote block so that it doesn't come as one.
Alex, what Engineer is talking about really resonates with a lot of Kenyans, because if you look at the history that he has given us in terms of political parties, we are not strengthening political parties or democracy, more or less like we are killing democracy. Ask me why. DAP Kenya is more or less than 5 years old. We look at some of the oldest parties. We have Ford Kenya, ODM, but the oldest is KANU. Let's go back to South Africa. We have ANC, which is quite a solid party over the years. And that is more or less what we would like here in the country. When somebody gets a position, or let's look at ODM, one of the oldest parties. Yes. It was ODM. It gave rise to ODM Kenya, which now is Wiper, meaning there was a breakaway faction. 2027, we never know. We might have a breakaway faction. And in also UDA is more or less TNA from back in the days, URP from back in the days. Maybe in 2027 we might have another vehicle. That is not making democracy any richer in the country.
I agree with you on that, but let me tell you something. Who are the beneficiaries of this party? That's the most important thing. If you look at UDA, who's the one of UDA? Definitely the president. And after the president, we are going to have a fight between the deputy president and the prime minister. That is Mheshimiwa Mudavadi.
Why do you say that?
Because you see, those are people who they all have interest to be the next president come 2032. And they want to take, everybody wants to make sure that he takes over the party. So the only way that these people are going to lead, are going to make sure that they control the party UDA, is making sure that each and every one of them is going to make sure that he pull more more politician on his side, more people to support him. Definitely after next year's election, you will see Mudavadi making sure that he get more supporters on his side. Mheshimiwa Rigathi will also try to push to make sure that he get more supporters on his side. So I think what he's saying, I might agree with him. We used to have Jubilee, now we have UDA. On 2032, definitely we'll have another umbrella. We'll have another party. It will not be UDA. Yes.
Then, gentlemen, as we wrap up on the political parties, what do we do to ensure that we keep them as strong and robust as they should be? Because every time you hear a breakaway faction, DAP is more or less a breakaway faction of some people from ANC and some people from ODM and also Ford Kenya as well.
Yes.
As long as we elect people based on them enticing us with money, political parties will become as useless as they come and go. We have not been able to entrench our politics on ideology, where we identify a leader, and that leader looks for a party that has a similar ideology to his or hers. Today, leaders say, I want to be a leader, and then they look at their bank account, or they look at how much money they have, and they say, I will go with this money and I'll get elected. They don't have an ideology. And neither do political parties have any ideology. A lot of what is promised during campaigns is not what is implemented. It's all about money. So as long as we are putting money in front in terms of how we elect leaders, we will not have very strong political parties. We will not have a vibrant democracy. We'll just have something that looks like democracy. But it's not democracy, because right now we feel we are free as a country. We have the political space to discuss what we want. But it is the money. People with the money are the ones who control us. They are the ones who determine what we are going to discuss. They are the ones who determine how long somebody will be in office. They are the ones who determine what kind of political discourse we have right now, because it is able to drive their commercial interest. Right now, money is everything in this country, and it's what is driving the politics. The day we remove money and start looking at the political interests of our country and how it is able to put our livelihoods better, that's when we'll be able to grow. If you look at advanced countries like America and the UK, Labour Party, Conservative, they have an ideology that people identify with. And when they're in power, you see that government started moving in that direction. The Democrats, the same way. The Republicans. But right now, we don't have any ideology we can say we identify with. So that's the challenge we have to do.
Alex, maybe you can take the last bite on how we strengthen democracy in political parties.
I think the best thing that let the leadership of the party not be handled by politicians, because these are the guys who are messing up everything. Because if you
unfortunately, they are the ones who own the party.
Yeah, the guys who own the party. That is the biggest problem that we are having right now in Kenya. If we can just have two parties in this country, and then we say now, these things should not be led by the politician. Because if you ask me right now I'm planning to go for governorship of Vihiga, and you ask me which party do you want to run with? You see, we have, if you talk about a party like DAP Kenya, you know DAP Kenya is doing very well in Western region. But people are running to UDA. Reason being, according to them, they feel that if I go to UDA, I'll be given money to campaign. If I go to UDA, they will help me steal votes. You see, those are the kind of mentality. That is the reality. That is the reality. Yes.
I wouldn't want to
No, but that is what is there.
In trouble, and also
no. I'm trying to tell you how those aspirants think. Because the moment you join a party like UDA, you already have an upper hand. Because the president will help you to campaign. You will be given resources. There will be some manipulation when it comes to voters and everything. So those are some of the benefits. As you cannot compare an independent candidate with somebody who is running on a party like UDA, because when you are on a strong party, you already have like 30% voters, people that you even don't know. So a party is a very powerful instrument when it comes to politics. So what we need to do, I think the best thing that we can do as a country, we separate these two issues and we make sure that we only strengthen two parties. If we decide we want to have UDA and ODM, even that one will kill this issue about tribalism, because you see, our politics is local. If you look at ODM, is a Nyanza party. If you look at UDA, Kikuyu Kalenjin party. DAP is a Western party. So we have to finish all this.
We need a party that gives us a national.
Yes, that is what we want.
Face. But engineer, away from that, I'm looking at what the president did yesterday, which is commission a 45 billion cement factory in of all the places, West Pokot. This is a place that has been plagued by war, banditry, insecurity, marginalization, a lot, but it's gonna change the landscape of that place. You are an infrastructure project expert, and we are looking at trying to end some of these things like war and the rampant banditry. There are some hotels now, there are some lodges there, the land has appreciated. I'd like you to touch on that, on how we can use this to tap into the security issues that has been plaguing have been plaguing West Pokot for the last many, many years.
You know, in many countries and in many jurisdictions, development has been used as a tool to fight insecurity. And the challenge we have right now in terms of the security challenge in the northern Kenya is a cultural one, which has evolved, become a crime, a criminal enterprise. Before it was just a culture of stealing goods from here, taking them here. It was a cultural thing. But now it has become a criminal enterprise because people have seen an opportunity to make money. And out of it, they have now made this business so ugly and so brutal that the livelihoods of people in the Northern Rift is at risk. But now somebody has made a bold decision to see the bigger picture in that area, that there is a mineral that is here that what we can use to save the country a lot of forex, a lot of resources that we are losing right now because of being an import, heavily in terms of importation. So for me, I want to encourage many investors, despite the challenges we have in some of these areas, there are a lot of opportunities. Some of these areas are very rich in terms of natural resources. The weather is very good. The land is barely being untapped in terms of the value. So the value is very low. We should be able to we should be encouraged to go and open up some of these northern frontiers so that we stop concentrating our investment between Nairobi and its environs. If we do that, we'll be able to open much of Kenya and grow the economy. Right now, the economy of Nairobi is saturated. The small piece of land that is there is so expensive, and it can only do very, very little in terms of what you can develop there and create so few jobs. But if you go to the northern frontier, for example, there's so much space. You can do so much and create so many opportunities and open that region to many other things and kill this issue of security, which is basically because these people have been left behind in terms of development. They are not aware of what is happening to the rest of the part of the country. But if you bring development to them, they'll just get awakened and become living like the rest of the country.
Alex, you can also touch on that in terms of security, because West Pokot has been plagued by insecurity for years. Actually, not the one or two regimes, for years. And as engineers talked about, started out as a more or less like community thing. You know, you stole our cattle, we come and steal yours. Now it's a criminal enterprise. And even the president said that yesterday that the Kenya Defense Forces will be back there to rebuild the infrastructure that is there. 45 billion. The country gets about 6 billion every year. So it could have taken West Pokot about almost 10 years to get that amount of investment that was done by them.
I think the good thing that they did, if we can keep those people busy, if we can help them at least be able to understand, to know that, okay, we can make money without fighting, without stealing. That will be the best thing. I agree whatever the president is doing, especially when he's trying to support the business people. Because, you see, the government cannot employ everyone. So when he comes in and he starts supporting investors. But, you see, as also a professional marketer, what the president is doing, whatever he's doing, you can support this business community, but you have to make sure that whatever you are doing benefit more of the wananchi. How are these local people going to benefit? Because you can have a factory there, but by the end of the day, it's not benefiting the people who are around there. How are those people going to make sure that at least 75% of those who are going to be casual laborers are going to come from that community? Because I am 100% sure we might end up having workers coming from other regions. We have to make sure that we support the local there. And this thing has to happen to all counties, not only one county, because if you go to my region like Vihiga, there are so many opportunities. If you go to other regions, I can give you an example of what China has done. If you go to China, what they have done, they control the number of houses that one should have in one city. If the government can come up with a structure and say, now, this is what we are going to do, you cannot have this size of land in one county. This will help for people also to invest in other counties. We have to make sure that we spread our investment. The moment we do that, people will not come and move to the city. People will go to their counties and work from there. There are so many opportunities. If you go to those side of Kakamega, there are so many jobless youth. If you go to my area like Vihiga, you'll find there are so many youth who have gone to school, but they have nothing to do. How are we going to look at Tanzania? What did Tanzania do? Tanzania government, the other thing that they did, they insisted on the chain of distribution. So when this person is setting up a factory, why don't you advise him to insist on, you know, the moment we have all the chain of distribution, the distributor, the wholesaler, what they do, they create more opportunity, because by the time the goods goes to the consumer, it passes through so many channels. The moment you do that, you create more opportunity, and it's also a plus to the manufacturer, because these people who are distributing, they will fund him, they will give him money for that product, and they'll provide the warehouse, they provide this advantage to this person, and by the end of the day, the common mwananchi will be able to get an opportunity, because that is what we want. We have to open up to create more job opportunity to our people. Yes. And
let's wrap it up with the conversation that refuses to go away, the fertilizer one. And engineer, I'm looking at the CES for Agriculture, Mythical Inturi, and the information that he has been giving since this saga started, and yesterday at Parliament, what we've heard the President say about it, what we've heard Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua talk about it, it seems that more or less like the CES is on one corner and every other government official is on the other corner, conflicting information, and we're talking about food security.
One of the challenges we have had is that in this fertilizer saga, the ministry seems to be speaking in different directions. That is the PS and the minister himself. And now also the deputy president has weighed in, and also his narrative is still also different from the rest of the crowd. So what we need to do is, as a government, we need to really strengthen the office of the government spokesperson, so that we allow that office to be collecting all the information from the government and be able to speak in one voice. So that the government communication is very clear. We need to reduce this confusion. And number two, if there are elements of fake fertilizers, government should own up and say, we have investigated, this is what we have found, this is what we are doing in terms of this issue, so that there is clarity and be able to provide Kenyans with some sense of direction, so that they know, even if I go to NCPBD tomorrow, I will not find fake fertilizer. I'll find good fertilizer, because the one that is fake, it has been removed. Right now, we have a challenge of people getting the perception that everything is fake, and they will not even procure the good one, so that we'll end up now we're having the same food insecurity challenge that the saboteurs were trying to arrive at by just putting a small amount of fake fertilizer in the market. They have destroyed the entire consignment, because people are now perceiving that there is fake fertilizer everywhere. Yet probably it's just a small section of the distribution chain that has that problem. So government needs to be improve its communication. The officials need to come out and say and speak in one voice, and avoid these issues of one saying this and a person did. There's no reason why a PS should say something different from the CS. They all work together. So I don't understand why.
Kindaki, in 20 seconds as we wrap it up, maybe the government should have thought of inclusion of private fertilizer companies in the country where they can be more accountable. A practical example, we have Elgon Kenya, we have a number of also private farms in the country. That would be more accountable, as opposed to private individuals who are bringing in some of these fertilizers has been contentious.
One thing that I can assure you is that with the Ruto government, it's not easy for somebody to be playing around with things unless the directive is coming from that big office. Even if you bring in private sector, you will realize that most of these, who owns this private sector that you're talking about, they are the same politicians that you are talking about. I think people just need to be a bit ethical, so that you know, whatever you see, we are Kenyans. Whatever you are doing, you just have to do the right thing by the end of the day. Because even if you look at those offices, by the end of the day, I'm 100% sure even some of these CS will not be in the office maybe after next election. Some other people will come, and they will be held accountable for all the mistakes that they are making. So I think the only thing is all about ethical. People should just understand their job, and they just deliver to Kenya. They do the right thing. Yes.
Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen, for making time and for your insight as well.
Thank you.
Just next to me, we have Engineer Crispas Wadimba, who is an principal infrastructure expert and also a leadership and governance expert and a regular here. Thank you so much. We also have another leadership and a political analyst and investment analyst as well, Alex Kindake. We are looking at the state of the nation. Thank you indeed so much for watching. My name is Bentro Njue, and Lucy Mora has been a sign language interpreter for this live broadcast. But as I leave you with the Senate committee, which is meeting Cabinet Secretary for IC and digital economy, that information, communication and digital economy, Honorable Eliud Owalo, and the chairperson of the Council of Governors, that is Madam Anne Waiguru, to deliberate on the state of the ICT sector in the country and the implementation